This is the Sharing Without Shame podcast, where we go beyond addiction to uncover the deeper roots of trauma and shame. Hurt people. They hide behind masks. And here, we're done hiding. We're sharing our stories without shame.
Hello, and welcome to the Sharing Without Shame podcast. I'm your host, Donna Marston. I'm an author, a certified recovery support worker. I'm a family recovery facilitator, and most importantly, a mom who's walked the painful path of loving a child in active addiction. This podcast is a safe space for parents and families navigating the chaos and confusion and heartbreak that addiction brings into the home. Here, you'll find real talk, sugar-coated advice, plus practical tools and proven strategies that will help you set boundaries, shift your mindset, and start showing up for your own life again. You're not alone. You don't have to do this alone. You don't have to stay in survival mode. And if you're ready, just take the next step. If you'd like, grab my free 5 boundaries and breakthroughs in the show notes. And when you feel the time is right, I'd be honored to walk this with you. Today, my guest is Anne Peshka, author of From Wounds to Wisdom, A Journey Through Trauma, Recovery, and Renewal. Anne's story is raw, real, and deeply moving. She's a woman who's faced the pain of childhood trauma, battled addiction, and made the heartbreaking decision to place a child for adoption. But her story doesn't end there. Through healing, self-discovery, and grit, Anne has reclaimed her life and is now a certified coach and entrepreneur, helping others turn their pain into purpose. Welcome, Anne.
Hey, thank you so much for having me. I really do appreciate that. There's one adjustment to the title of my book is actually called Trauma Recycled.
Oh, okay. No, thanks. Sorry about that.
No worries at all. No worries at all. Well, we can always add it to the show notes. So yeah, it's
There you go.
perfectly good. But yeah, thank you so much for having me. I love your passion for what you do and the change that you're looking to help others make.
Thank
I really
you.
like that a lot.
Appreciate it.
Yeah.
First question I like to ask, what would you like to share without shame?
Shame is such a really special topic for me because I moved through it for decades, right? It wasn't anything that all of a sudden I acknowledged I had shame and then just all of a sudden got rid of it. Like that's not the purpose of shame. And I kind of really like to think of shame as like an inner compass, an inner guide, almost like, raising your hand going, hey, there's some shame in here, which draws the attention to what's going on. So as a young child, I was raised in a traumatic household. And so shame was really at my core right around the age of 4 or 5 is when it began, but I didn't understand. I couldn't articulate what it was. It was just a very confused feeling. And then as I continued to grow and continued to grow in a not so good manner, there were other layers of shame that took place. And those were actually in the form of labels that either somebody stuck on me or I stuck on myself, addict, alcoholic, loser, bad mother, all of those things. So that shame was just so built inside of me that I really felt hopeless that I would ever want to show my face. Like I literally didn't even want people to look at me. So my eyes tended to be downcast. My responses tended to be quiet. I was definitely not shining my light. So I've done a tremendous amount of work to get to the point where I was, one, able to recognize shame for what it was, and two, begin to do the work to eliminate the shame. And that's the journey, right? So I really have, the process has been difficult, but magical at the same time.
Mm-hmm. And one of the things I say this is labels are for jars. They're not for people.
Mm-hmm. Correct.
And I don't like the A words that we call people who have a substance use disorder.
100%.
Because that's not who my son is. My son's a beautiful human being who happens to have a brain disorder. His brain's wired differently than mine. So why would I shame and blame him for having something? He learned to control it. He learned how to take back his power and move forward, working a recovery program and living a healthy, happier life.
Oh, 100%. I mean, my entire world is around substance, abuse disorders. And that's, my own child as well, heroin. And that was something that was really difficult. And it still is. It's, mourning somebody that's still alive. And it's
Right?
a very difficult thing to do. I've had two nephews take their own life. There's been a number of people in my world, very, very close to me, that still struggle today. And it's learning not to judge, because I was in those shoes, right? I drank to get drunk. I drank because I didn't want to be me, plain and simple. That was it.
Yeah.
Hereditary or not, doesn't really matter. I just know I didn't want to be me. So when those labels were slapped upon me, and I began to navigate and understand this process of uncovering me and who really was deep inside, that's when I began to realize that these were things that I did to cope. These were things that I did because I didn't want to be me. And so it's much easier for me to look at someone that is struggling and see the person struggling and
Mhm.
not the struggle, because
Right.
I can't possibly understand the struggle, but I can appreciate when somebody just feels so desperate inside. And as a loved one, when you're watching that, unless you're really, really well in tuned with this, it's hard to not judge. And so you hear people judge all the time, well, why don't they just get a job? Well, why don't they just stop? I mean, it's their own fault, it's their own problem. And it's really not that simple.
No,
It's
no.
really not.
No, because the alcohol, the drugs are just a Band-Aid. That's all they are. And I teach a class on it's all about the why. And it
Yes.
and it's the why for our loved ones, but I had to learn my why. Why did I provide unhealthy helping to my son? Why did I provide, this and that? And why did I think I could save him? So I had to take a look at myself and my behaviors. Because what I learned is when somebody's in active addiction, the person who I like the word unhealthy helper better than codependent
Yep.
or chief enabler. We mimic each other's behaviors.
Yeah.
Why are we're doing this toxic dance? Why? Because I think I love him so much, I'm going to save him and I'm going to do everything because I'm the mother. It's my job.
Yeah.
I know better.
Right.
And then then he's in his 20s and it changes the dynamic, right? When they go from being a parent of a teenager to a young male adult who is supposed to be moving forward in life.
Yeah.
And what happens is often we stifle our loved ones with our unhealthy helping. And
Hmm.
it's not that we say it out loud. Most, or maybe some parents do. I didn't. But there's a subconscious that I can do it better than you. So let me do it for you.
Yeah. Yeah. For sure. I moved in that same space. I really did. And I think what really helped me the most is that I had been in those shoes. So I very quickly stopped doing you need to do this, you need to do that. And I started just letting them. And honestly, Mel Robbins wrote the book after I began the journey of having my children
Yeah.
and family members suffer around me. But truly, when you can get to that point where you just let them,
Yep.
I'm all you can do is love. I love you no matter what. I love you no matter what.
Which is really important because I was not one about tough love. People would say, kick him out, do this. And my husband, he grew up around a lot of dysfunction and drugs and alcohol. I mean, he doesn't have the disease or disorder, whatever, but he had zero tolerance. I didn't grow up around it, so I didn't know what I was getting myself into. So
Mm,
it was different, but he worked a lot, so it was great. So he'd go to work so I could make a mess. I
yeah,
didn't know I was making a mess. I thought I was being a good parent.
right.
Thought I was being loving and kind until the days where I couldn't be loving and kind anymore, and then I was mean and miserable, just like
Mm,
he was.
yeah,
We mimic each other's behaviors.
for sure. And I think you really struck on a very, very important point is that, there is no rule book for how
Mm-mm.
to love somebody that's in that element of pain, right? So seeking support for ourselves is vital. And that support comes in many different ways, right? Everybody's got a different journey. It could simply be a treat, that you find solace under. But I mean, honestly, getting some education around the dynamics of addiction is very helpful. Listening and getting supported by people that aren't going to be drama filled. So we had to be careful with the people that we bring into our situation. So if it's like, a good friend that it's like a bitch session, and then all of a sudden it just turns into, oh my God, I can't believe you're doing that. That's not support. Right. But if it turns into somebody that is just merely holding space, Donna's able to share what she's going through, and that person just sits there and just loves you for what you're going through. No advice, no nothing, just merely I'm here, because sometimes that's just what we need. We need to know that we're supported and not judged for our actions, never mind the people that we love, because those around us, they'll do enough judging for us.
Oh, right. I know. So when you were going through your addiction, can you talk a little bit about your pathway to recovery?
Absolutely. So mine was really ingrained at a very young age. That was like the age of 4. I was being sexually abused by my father. So that was just a weird kind of grief and trauma that a child can never understand. Right. So that led me to a very young age using drugs and alcohol. And I literally would do anything. If somebody wanted me to put, blotter acid in my eyeball, I did it because I didn't care. Right. Thank God I'm not blind. I didn't care. So it was, moving forward, I got pregnant with my oldest son when I was 18. So I had him at 19. I was not in a good way emotionally, spiritually, or, with drugs or alcohol at that point. 3 years later, I was homeless and I became pregnant again. And I was still drinking quite a bit. And I was still using some drugs. Once I found out that I was pregnant, that of course shifted, and I decided to place that baby for adoption, because there was just no way I could be a good parent to a 3-year-old when I couldn't even take care of me and then a new baby. So that started my path to really going, wow, maybe I'm not junk. Maybe I am salvageable. Maybe this 3-year-old really does need me and I'm good for him. So there goes the drugs. Drugs were gone at that point. Still dabbled in some drinking, but that began my journey to getting myself on my feet. And then 4 years later, pregnant again. So then by that time, 4 years later, I was almost alcohol free. I would have bits of time where I didn't drink, and then I would be binging, and then bits of time. So I was still very unstable in my own right, but I was on my journey to understanding how I functioned. And then it was after I had my youngest child that I was like, wait a minute, like this is it. Like you need to like stop drinking or you're going to die and your kids are going to end up God knows where. So there went the drinking. But the drinking didn't stop 100%. I found later on, as I was really diving deep in myself and could stand back sober and look, that my drinking happened when I was in a relationship. I was very sober when I was single. And it's really interesting to look back on those patterns. And it was the decisions that I made at the times to stop using was really for the benefit of others. And it really wasn't truly for the benefit of me, because I still didn't really believe that I was worthy of all of that. That was for special people. Like, why would I think that I deserve to have, these things? I mean, I'm just me. And so like, I can just drink through that. I wasn't wholeheartedly involved in it until I was in my late 40s. And I drove very drunk with my dog, who I loved so much. And I woke up that next morning and I looked at my little dog and didn't know how we got where we were. And that's when I stopped. And I stopped 100%. So that, it really
turkey, done.
100% right then and there.
No meetings, nothing.
What I did do is I joined a program called Aware. And this was up in Connecticut. Aware Recovery. This was in Connecticut. It was fairly new and my insurance covered it. and it was an outpatient program. So I had a team of people that came to my house weekly.
Yep.
That was really important. I knew at that point I had already, began my journey with therapy and with reading books. I mean, that started in my late 20s, early 30s. So I was already taking those steps to improve me, but never was really understanding who I was without a substance. Almost scared to find out who I was without a substance because I didn't know if I would like what I uncovered. So, and then I went to meetings sheerly because I absolutely love those rooms.
Yeah.
Those are my peeps. Those are my people. Those
Yeah.
that is where I feel the most comfortable. So, I stopped going to meetings. Wasn't because I felt like I was all good. I just merely just haven't gone. But I know that today, if I walked in the doors, I would feel just as comfortable as I did 8, 9, 10 years ago.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
it was a process for me, but I think the most important piece was believing I had to have that little glimmer of hope that I might be worth it.
Mm.
Because without that, I would not have fought so hard. And without my kids, I wouldn't have believed. I really thought somebody screwed up when they gave me kids. I'm like, somebody upstairs made a really big mistake. He does not know who I am. I should
Mm.
not be in charge of these beautiful people. Like, this is
Mm.
really crazy. Somebody made a mistake. Obviously, that wasn't the case, but it was the glimmer of hope. And it was really all it took was one person believing that I wasn't junk for me
Mm.
to believe I might not be. So I can't say that it was like, an epiphany. Did I hit rock bottom? People ask me that question all the time. I lived my rock bottom for a very long time, So there wasn't any, cyclical moment that stands out that goes, wow, I almost killed somebody. That was my rock bottom. It was my dog. It was my kids. Those were my reasons. And then believing
Mm.
that I was worth having a good life.
And so fast forward, where are you today? How long
Oh
have
man.
what's your recovery look like? We talked about you wrote a book and I said the wrong name, I believe.
It's okay.
Remind me what it is again?
Trauma recycled.
Trauma Recycle. Let's talk about
Yes.
that.
Yeah, yeah. I wrote it. I really was just in love with the title because that is exactly what I did. Is I took my trauma and I turned it into my power and the best parts of me.
Yeah.
So I don't live in the space of, oh my God, look what happened to me. Oh my God, this is my life. That was my space for a long time, until I finally was like, wait a minute, you know what? That didn't happen because of me. It didn't happen to me. It merely happened. Right. So I don't wear the survivor, the victim. Like, I just don't do that. I'm also not in recovery. I don't do any of that stuff. Right. That does not work for me. I am a human being that loves passionately what I do. And what that is it shares the rawest parts of me so that others can feel connected, that others can feel included, that others can feel that they are not alone. So when
Mhm.
I talk about my past and I talk about the things that happened to me, and, I've been introduced on stage as she's a survivor, and I just kind of cringe because I didn't fall out of an airplane,
Yeah.
right? I
Yeah.
had a shitty childhood. It's
Yeah.
okay. Because
Right.
if I had not had that childhood, I would not be me right now. And I love me right now. And I love everything about my journey. So where I am right now is in an amazing space. I am
Mhm.
really full of love. I am really full of life. And I feel the magic everywhere I go. And that is very intentional. So it
Yeah.
has taken me decades to get to the space of living in default, whether it was someone else's default of where I should be or my default of where I felt I deserved, to now fully intentional. Like, I
Mhm.
am exactly where I want to be. And
Yeah.
that's a beautiful place to be.
Right. And I think, like I didn't ask for anything that I went through and it rocked my world. It brought me to my knees and I was in the fetal position for so long. But eventually it's like there was something like I broke open and this light came through, and there's the light at the end of the tunnel, and it brought me to a place I never imagined I would be. I found a voice, my voice and my passion.
Yeah.
And God has a plan, right? The universe, whatever you choose to call it,
Yeah.
power greater than you. Um,
Right.
there's a plan. Our children, where our bodies are just vehicles in which they come. They are gifts.
Right.
And so this life is a gift. We all get to choose how we're going to move forward when we've been kicked around a little bit and
Yeah.
felt like we were drowning and we didn't know what
Right.
to do next. And for me, I got on my knees.
Yeah.
I just got on my knees, and some days it was one breath at a time.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah. It's an amazing state to be in, like gratitude. That is my top emotion, right? If I were to take my entire being and chunk out the emotion that I feel the most, it is definitely the majority is gratitude. And even the toughest times, it's grateful. It's very
Right.
grateful. And learning to navigate grief and loss, and I've done it so much because I love fiercely. And when you love fiercely, you also grieve greatly.
Yeah.
But grief is really love with nowhere to go.
Mm.
So when you can sit, and I just recently, a week ago, lost my very best friend, my little dog.
Mm.
And it's still, the human part of you takes a minute to catch up, because the human part of you still kind of sits in loss. Just like when we lose somebody to addiction, well, my God, look what I lost. Instead of looking at, my God, look what I had.
Right.
And the greatest gift he gave me was mindfulness. And it's literally being in the moment. So when I think about him, it's not, and a human part of me still is like, oh my God, I miss him so much. It's like part of my lung is gone. But the other part of me is like, thank you, because you
Yeah.
showed up.
Mm-hmm.
And I mean, there's no greater love. So it really is being able to, I don't want to say navigate loss, but move through grief in a manner that just kind of keeps you in the gratitude section of it, because they are so greatly intertwined. They're one and the same. Or
Mm-hmm.
we have the option to choose. And this is where the tough stuff comes in. So I became a certified core energy coach last year, and I did it because I wanted to understand me, not just other people. So I didn't do it to begin a coaching business. I'm not going to do one-on-ones with people anywhere in the near time future, if at all. I did it because I wanted to bring a level of excellence to others as I am helping them with what I have learned. So understanding energy and understanding how people operate and how they got to that point, you also understand you have a choice, right? So I am not the fluffy person that can sit there and go, oh my goodness, that's so terrible. What happened to you? I do not hold space like that. If somebody needs to talk about difficult times, I zip it. It's not my space to give my opinion on them. And that's something I learned because it was done to me. And if I walked into a therapist's office and, you got to do the intro that for me always took like 6 sessions, and the family background and all that, difficult stuff, because you're just going through it again. And they would sit there in horror and go, oh my God, that's terrible. I can't believe you went through that. Instantly, they were fired. Done. Not even a second chance, because that's not healing. That's not healing. So as I talk about these difficult things, and I've started my own podcast for this reason, to bring others on, to bring these branches of hope that all of these people, including yourself, bring to the table, because we're all so vastly different in that, and we learn from each other. But if
Mm-hmm.
I were to sit there and let somebody stay in their puddle, I am of no service to them. And that doesn't mean that they won't eventually get there. And we love them for that journey that they're on. But it really comes down to like a sense of urgency. How long do you want to live in this?
Mm-hmm.
And do you have any hope, faith, or belief that you deserve more?
Mm-hmm.
That's the key right there.
It is, and it's tough to get unstuck when you don't know you're stuck.
Yeah. Yeah. It is. It
Yeah.
is.
Until you hit your enough.
Yeah.
And then when you hit your enough, then you're able to, for me, there were days it was one breath at a time because
Mhm.
I would find myself holding my breath a lot. And the parents
Mm.
I work with, we held our breaths a lot when our kids were in active addiction,
Yeah.
you know, and
Yeah.
just things that you don't even think about that just start happening. But you're right, you have to start moving forward. And I didn't know I was the victim. I read a book, The Voice of Knowledge by Miguel Ruiz,
Mm.
and he was talking about being the victim. And I identified that that's where I was stuck.
Mhm.
All those gifts that come to us. We don't
Yeah.
know what we don't know until we're open to receive it. I read the
Yeah.
book and it resonated with me, and I was like, oh, that's a problem.
Yeah. Yeah.
Now what are you gonna do about it?
Right.
And we have reoccurrences. We go back to doing unhealthy helping. We go back to being the victim at times.
Yeah.
That's just being human, that
Mhm.
we do those things come back every once in a while, but hopefully through the work you do and that I do, and there's so many people like us, that we
Right.
offer the tools for people that are on this journey, that they won't stay there very long. That
Exactly.
they'll move, they'll identify it, feel it, figure out a way to release it so that they can move forward.
100%. 100%. And I think really using shame as a gauge, right? I mean, it's in us for a reason. So if we start feeling like, and maybe we can't articulate it, but if we start feeling like we wouldn't stand up in front of the entire town where we live and say, this is my living conditions and this is what's going on in my world, we may have a little inkling that there might be something going on in our world that's not right. It's
Mm,
not right either with our values or what's innately inside of us that our true north is. And until we can determine that, but it's really difficult to say that when you haven't done the work. If somebody had come to me when I was in my 20s and mentioned that, I'd have been like, you're speaking like some weird language from outer space. I have no idea what you're talking about. I wouldn't have gotten it. You know what I mean?
mhm,
But I think that we all know, and that's the beauty of having instinct, right? That's the beauty of like all of us are built with our own little radar system, that as we're
mhm,
going through the world, if something is really not comfortable and we really don't like it, there is a reason. There is a
mm,
reason. So that's, starting that self audit process, and it's literally a pen and paper. I'm feeling this. You may not have words for it. It might just be frustrated or anger, but writing those down, and then the next step would be, how did I get there? Did I always feel frustrated by this? What might have been the actions that brought me to that frustration? I think that we can begin to do some journeying on our own before we're able to really reach out for help.
yeah. And I think too, another important, adding on to what you just said, is ask ourselves, how old do we feel? Because whatever that is, it could be something that happened when we were 5 or 2 or 10 or
Mm,
15 or whatever. And that little kid
yeah,
is up, because bottom line is all of our stuff is healing that inner child that was either traumatized,
100%.
and we're here, we look like adults.
Yep.
We don't
Yep.
always act like adults,
No, we're 7-year-olds in disguise, is what we are.
right? Yeah, and I think it's really important to add that when you're asking yourself those questions.
Yeah.
How old do I feel right now?
Right.
And add that
100%.
to that healing piece, because if you're open enough, hopefully you'll receive it. One of the things that I used to do, well, I still do when I'm really troubled, or I just have an intense question and I'm not getting the answer, is I put my right hand on my heart chakra and my left hand under on my solar plexus,
Yeah.
and I do this when I'm going to sleep because my brain can get busy, right? And I ask, if my soul could speak to me, what would you tell me about? And I let it go.
Yeah.
Next day, I'll hear a song, something will be on the TV, but I will get the answer,
Right.
right? And so if we're open and that's holding space for ourselves
Yeah.
to receive it, when we're ready to receive it, all this stuff, all this healing, all this work that, we've been talking about will start to happen. You'll start to receive the gifts when you're open to it. But if you're,
Yeah.
still pushing and trudging and trudging, doing the same old stuff, then it's highly unlikely that you might get little pieces here and there, but it might take a little bit longer.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, it's so true, right? And it brings me back to that early self, that early in my early 20s. If somebody had said to me that, I would experience this magic, I would have there's no way on this planet. I mean, I wasn't worthy of the magic in my mind. I was really discarded and junk in my mind. I didn't believe I belonged anywhere. I was always on the outside looking in, those special clothes are for special people, the special cars, the special houses, the special families, all of those things were meant for everybody but me. So it's really, it brings me back to Sheila was my most impressive help when I was in the Aware program. So she was my coordinator, my care coordinator. And she said to me one day, and this was very fresh in my sobriety, she said, "What would cause you to drink again?" And I said, "Oh my God, if anything happened to one of my kids or my dog or my family." And she said, "Would it change that?" And she didn't say anything. And that's the power. Ask me the question, zip it. Because I was speechless. And I remember sitting there exactly where I was in my kitchen. And I went, "Oh my God, no, it wouldn't."
Right.
And the next thing I know, my brother died. And the next thing I know, my nephew took his own life.
Oh my goodness.
And my dog died. Boom, boom, boom. Just like that. And I didn't drink a drop. And I swear, if she had not brought up such a pivotal point,
Mm-hmm.
I'm not saying I would have, but man, she made a lot of freaking sense. And I think that that's really important to hang on to, is that a lot of the times the reasons that we use and the reasons that we drink is because I know for myself, I felt like, well, I had a crappy day. I mean, I'm just going to drink, or this happened to me. I'm just going to drink. It was almost like an excuse. Like I had a little, note from the teacher that said, you can have a hall pass. Well, here's a hall pass to drink and abuse your body because you've had such a tough life. And it really was that reframing how I thought about things, because she was right. I
Yep.
normally would have ran for the bottle and I would have drowned myself. I'd have done whatever kind of drug I could have got my hands on, because my God, my brother just died. I mean, how could this happen? And then my sister's grieving her son who took his life. I mean, it doesn't get worse than this, right? I need to drink, but I
Yeah.
didn't.
Yeah.
And man, that was when I like showed up for myself. I played full out through that. That was not easy to get through, but there wasn't even a shred of doubt in my mind that I could do it. And so I'd love to pass that on to people, because when you start feeling your darkest moments, as you are trying to, recover from whatever abuse you've been doing, really, really realize that nothing will change. Life will still go on. It'll still happen.
Right. Yeah. Those are our earth angels when they come and drop that seed. Actually, it's
Man.
a bomb. It's like, phew, wow.
Yeah, she is still and always will be. We're now great friends,
Yep.
and not typical of somebody that you're working with in a therapeutic sense.
Yep.
But it was such a connection
Yep.
and still is,
Yeah.
so
Yep.
yeah, she's now a doctor in her own practice, but I never forget. And, every time we catch up on the phone, like my gratitude for her literally can like bring me to my knees, because so
Mm-hmm.
grateful for those beautiful people out there that are
Yeah.
helping us navigate what we don't know.
And my son had a similar story where he was in treatment, and he was there he had stayed for 28 days, and back then some
Yeah.
of them had extended stay, and so he had that. But I don't know if this happened in the extended stay or where it was. I think it might have been in his 28 days, because now that I'm thinking of it, I was going to act badly. So he said to me, he called to tell me, he goes, "Mom, it was torrential rains, and I was supposed to go to a meeting. I wasn't going because someone had taken the bike and it's torrential rains and I'm going to get soaked." I didn't have any rain gear. And his counselor, her name is Barb. She was an older woman. I love this one. She's our earth angel.
Yeah.
And she looked at him and she said, Peter, if you wanted to get drugs and go get high or meet your dealer, would you meet him in the rain? He goes, I'll see you later, Barb.
Love it. Oh, I love it.
And when he told me that, I was like, I'm going to call her. I'm going to give her a piece of my mind that she had my baby boy walking in this torrential rain. He could have gotten him, all that. I create this drama, this story, until I realized what a gift she gave my son.
Power.
Right. And we stayed in touch for a very long time. She had retired and we stayed in touch with her, and she's just a special lady, because she
Oh,
had a
yeah.
way without humiliating you. She was loving
Yeah.
him,
Yeah.
and she was holding him accountable.
That's amazing. What a blessing.
And just like your person,
Yeah. Oh
holding you
my God.
accountable. She gave you
Ye-
something to think about.
So many times. And that's why it feels great to pay back, right? It feels great to be able to say, hey, you know what? I've been there. I've got your hand,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
zip it. Most important, zip it. Like as humans, we want to help. We want to be the power of wisdom. We want to be this fountain of hope, but essentially connection is what we truly need. And it's
Yeah.
what we're made to do, is to connect, and when we just sit and be, that's a beautiful gift.
Mm-hmm.
It's hard to do, but it's a beautiful gift.
And the silence can be very loud, right? The silence can be painful
Yeah.
until you can quiet yourself
Yeah.
and settle it. And we all have the power to do that.
Hmm.
It's just gifting it to ourselves.
Yeah. Yeah, right. I mean, it's almost like, if you can imagine, right? So you and I meet and you're struggling with an addiction and I've like gotten through it, right? Please. And I go, oh my God, I know what you're going through. No, I have no idea what you're going through. I think I know what you're going through. I don't have a clue what you're going through, because
Mm,
I'm not Donna.
right.
But those are the things that we have to learn, right? It's how we show up for other people. It's how we show up for our sons. Like I still, my son is, for today, he's good. All right. But do I think that it's a 100,000% always going to be good? No, I'd be silly to. Right. I have to be open to the fact that it's his choices, not mine. They're not my hopes and dreams that are going to keep him safe. They're his choices. So I have to
Mhm.
like pull myself out of that. But if I were to sit there and I did this, oh, well, you just got to read books and you just got to get a therapist and you just got to do this and you just got to do that. When inside I know what it is, right? You got to believe you're worth it. You got to
Mm,
believe you're worth the fight. I can't give that to anybody. But if I
right.
hold his hand and he knows beyond a shadow of a doubt, I love you this much, and there's nothing you could do to change it, that's where it is. And then it's zip
Hmm.
and just let
Hmm.
him be. And that's hard for us to do because we innately want to help. But if there's one thing that I could really share with anybody, if there's one little piece of something to take away, it's learn how to hold space for somebody that's struggling, and not
Mm.
try to help, because love and connection is really the only way to help, you know?
And a lot of times, I with people in active addiction, the family members, they don't stop to say, what do you need?
Yeah.
What is it that I can do for you to help support you? They're
Yeah.
so busy being hyper focused on what they think their loved one's doing wrong
Yeah.
and blaming and shaming, that they lose that opportunity often
Yeah. For
to
sure.
to hold that space and love them. And
For sure. I think that's fear-based. I
oh,
think that when, people are so afraid and so incredibly powerless. I mean, addictions, you're completely powerless. I had someone was having a pretty good conversation with somebody recently, and they're like, I just don't get it. I mean, if you know it's going to kill you, why do you keep doing it? So I said, okay, here is the only analogy that I can come up with that might make sense to you. So if you were to take your cell phone and you were to bring it to your neighbor's house and ask them to store it in their garage for 7 days and not let you add it, tell me what you feel right now. Well, I couldn't do it.
There you go.
There you go. Oh, but the excuse. Yeah, but work. Oh, yeah. That's exactly what someone who's struggling with an addiction does too. They rationalize why they need it. So you're doing exactly what we're talking about right now.
Yeah.
That was the closest I could come. But I tell you, that'll start your body going, "Ah," because the cell phone is like an extension of human beings right now.
Absolutely. I used to do it with the parents that would come to my support groups, and I'd say, just for tomorrow, don't have your cup of coffee first thing in the morning. And let's talk about that. And then when you get through tomorrow, do it the next day, and then do
Yeah.
it the next day, and do it the next day. And I had one mom, she was addicted to Diet Coke. She didn't even last 24 hours.
Yeah.
I had parents with sleeping pills. And I said, and do deep sleep meditations, get rid of the sleeping pills because you get addicted to that stuff. So how can you have a conversation with your loved one when you're doing the same thing?
Good for you. That is such a powerful point. I love that.
Yeah, I mean, listen,
Yeah.
don't be calling the kettle black.
Right. Right.
Practice what you preach.
Yeah, perspective, right? I mean, I think that we think it's okay, right? Caffeine is, an exception. Cell phones are an exception. Sleeping pills are an exception. When really they're hand in hand. We're dependent upon something outside of ourselves, and why?
Right.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
love that. That's a great point.
Yeah, they weren't real happy with me when I would challenge them, but it just needed to be said sometimes because it irritated
Yes.
me. It
Yeah.
took me a long time to understand, all of this, but I would do it lovingly and gently, a
Yeah.
little, and
I
if
love
they couldn't
that.
do it, it was like, okay, but then don't put that pressure on your children if you can't stop drinking Diet Coke.
100%. Yeah.
So
Yeah.
because they're going through what you're going through. Same thing.
Right.
So let's take a look at that.
Right. Yeah, I
So
love that. Keeping it real, Donna, keeping it real. I love it.
so anyway, as we wrap up, is there a service that you offer to people if anyone wants to reach out to you or get your
Absolutely.
book?
Yeah, I mean, my book is great, right? And it's not just because I wrote it. Like, my book is raw and it's real, and it's a very easy read. It's not extensively long, but it gets to the point how I took, the toughest parts of my life and turned them into my power. And from that, I've also just started a podcast where, like I said, bringing, folks to the table that are like other branches, right? People that can help reach out and learn from different ways because we all are so different. And then I do half-day intensives, small group. And that is really an opportunity for people. I've kind of set up some parameters around what it is that we're going to work on. And then we spend, 4 hours together as a small group by Zoom and work on the stuff and ask questions. So I'm able to answer any questions that people have. And I'm really very, very, very open. So there's nothing that anybody can't ask me that I'm not very comfortable talking about. And that's really a product of the decades of work, right? So I can
Yeah.
really talk very well about the experiences that I've had because they are so very important to share. So yeah, those are the services. I mean, you can find me on Facebook. My website should be released in another week. So that'll be another source of information. But yeah, I would definitely say read my book. And I've made it available on Audible, Spotify, Apple. So if folks aren't a reader, they can certainly listen to it. But
And when your website comes out, do you have your link?
thank you for that. AnnePeshka.com. Everything will be my name, AnnePeshka.com. So
Nice.
it'd be very easy to find me.
Any words of wisdom you'd like to leave the listeners with?
Do you know, I honestly, I just really would like to ask everybody just to close your eyes and spend a minute just breathing and being so grateful for being you, because everybody has magic within them. And even if it's very hard to see it, just take a deep breath for you and just kind of be there with you, because there's no greater friend for you than you.
Beautifully
Yeah.
said.
Yeah.
Thank you so much.
Thank you so much. I appreciate it.
All right, take care.
Yep. Bye-bye.
Thank you for joining Donna for today's conversation. Remember, trauma may wear many faces, but healing is about uncovering the truth beneath the pain and learning to live without shame. If today's episode resonated with you, please subscribe, share, and leave a review. It helps this message reach more hearts that need it. If you have a story of navigating trauma, shame, or addiction and how you found your freedom, Donna would love to hear from you. This podcast is built on real stories, and yours could inspire someone else's healing. Visit sharingwithoutshame.com to connect with Donna, apply to be a guest, or learn how to bring her books, coaching, and speaking engagements to your community or organization. Until next time, remember, healing begins the moment you choose to stop hiding and start sharing without shame.